in a well-run restaurant. So there's coupons in the Current, COURANT online.com. Check out those coupons in the Current.
For the coupons, you need to know.
Yep. And then comedy shows every Friday. Next week, January 26th, is Andy Beningo and Nate Armbruster. And so they've got great shows, great music, great food, and they do pour a mean drink. Absolutely. So there you go. 810-227-6000. It's a good idea to call ahead and make reservations. 810-227-6000 or burrows-roadhouse.com. What? I got all that in that quick,
wow,
right?
You're good.
Yeah, so the Schumer shutdown, right? And that's what people have to call this. And tweet it, Facebook it, talk it up at the gas station lines, whatever. This is the Democrats' fault. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yep.
All right?
Rather support illegal immigrants, let's put it that way, than American citizens, than American military, than American children.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and the Democrats are doing a huge disservice to the Dreamer kids by not cutting the deal with the president and the GOP because they've made the offer. And joining us on the phone, Congressman, 7th District for Michigan, U.S. Congressman Tim Walberg. Congressman Tim, welcome to the show.
Good to be with you, and appreciate you being one of the media sources that tries to get out the facts.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you got hold of us today because I was looking for an update, and sure enough, when I saw your text, I was like, yes.
Are you ice fishing again?
No. Well,
no,
it's probably...
No, I really am not. I'm sitting here in a 2436 House of Rayburn office building, my office, and just signed a letter to the clerk of the House asking for my pay to be withheld until the military receive their pay again.
Oh, there you go.
And so, no, we're here. We have nothing to do. We're doing some things. We're in meetings talking about the DACA and other things relative to the FISA issue, and I'm glad to talk with you about that as much as I can. But it is up to Chuck Schumer. So hashtag Schumer shutdown is key for people to involve themselves with. When Debbie Stabenow said several times this past week, that she wanted Congress to act on funding CHIP. Well, doggone it, we did in the House. We fully funded CHIP not for 5 years or 2 years or 3 years, but for 6 years, the longest CHIP has ever been funded for. That was in our bill, and I saw some of my Democrat colleagues in the House sending out fundraising emails the day of our vote in the House when we passed this and sent it to the Senate saying, tell Congress to fully fund CHIP. Well, when we did in that bill, these same members of Congress voted against it.
Yeah, and that's what drives me crazy, Tim. I mean, you guys, and frankly, this is the first time I've seen what I consider like a really honest, great, big effort by the Republicans. You're reaching across the aisle, which I normally don't endorse, but you guys are reaching across the aisle and giving Democrats things that, frankly, they don't deserve, but you're doing it. And yet the Democrats lie, cheat, steal, whatever, and propagandize that you're not doing this.
It's like Lucy in the football, you know? I mean, she sets you up, they set you up, you know, like you give them what they want, and then they yank it away. Say, no, that's not good enough. I mean, why?
If you watched the Senate last night, and it was painful to watch, but I watched it right up to the bitter end, and when you saw Chuck Schumer get up and talk about how he had graciously offered to put the wall on the table with the president, that was a bunch of bull. That was what they talked about already in that first meeting together, and they came to an agreement. And here are the four things they came to the agreement on, all of them, Durbin, Schumer, our guys, Kevin McCarthy, Goodlatte, et cetera, that these were the four negotiation points that they would continue working on together in agreement. It was DACA, border security, family reunification, and merit visa. So the wall was already there. This was nothing new that Chuck Schumer gave to the president. And he talked in such compassionate verbiage. Well, it was a lie. Bottom line is this was already on the table, and the president rightly said, Senator Schumer, I am not negotiating DACA until you are willing to fund the government. We are in negotiations now on DACA, but this does not go on the table of funding the government, and shutting it down is unnecessary. So it is all on Chuck Schumer's hands right now. The only one that can open government up is Chuck Schumer and the Senate Democrats, and that includes our two senators as well, that have to get to the table and say, if I truly believe that the military needs to be funded, then I'd better vote for this proposal. If I truly believe that our national flood insurance program needs to be funded for places like Puerto Rico, if I truly believe that CHIP, Children's Health Insurance Program, needs to be funded, then they need to vote for it. All of that's in there. We put nothing in our legislation that would be a poison pill like they did back when we shut it down in 2013. They put taxes increases and spending increases that we ultimately had to say, no, Mr. President, we cannot do that. It's so unlike what this is. They had everything that they agreed with, but they still voted against it.
Yeah. So let me ask you, we have a caller, Tim, who wanted you, if you could give us an update on the National Reciprocity Bill, and he's also asking, is there any chance of Mitch McConnell going to 51 votes, and why are they so scared to do that?
Well, we're going to have a heart-to-heart talk with Mitch McConnell and all the Senate Democrats that will be showing up for the first day and a half of our annual Republican Conference retreat, where we'll meet together for that first day and a half, and then they'll leave us and go to their own retreat site. We had it to a point last year as well. This year, I think my colleagues, including our leadership, are so angry that they are holding on to a filibuster cloture thing that wasn't in place till Aaron Burr shot Hamilton. And cloture became something by mistake. There was no filibuster before all of that took place. The framers and founders, when they put the Senate together, they wanted to be a deliberative body with 100 senators, coming from, or 2 senators from each state. It wasn't 100 at that time, but 2 senators from each state debating, having the ability to really slow things down, but never to stop it. And that's what this cloture thing has come. So we're going to have some strong words, I'm sure, for our good friends and colleagues from the Senate, but nonetheless, they need to hear it, because this only happened because one man in the minority was able to shut down what went on, because we don't have 60 votes. You could have every Republican vote for what went on last night, and we still wouldn't have the 60 votes to pass it. And so that has to be dealt with. So, yeah, we'll be talking about it.
Which puts to lie the Nancy Pelosi, the Republicans control the Senate, they control the House. No, we don't control the Senate when you have this cloture.
60 vote minimum.
Yeah.
We control the White House, and we control the House. We have a majority, a simple majority in the Senate.
Which isn't good enough.
Which isn't good enough because of those rules. And that has to be changed. And if you think that Chuck Schumer won't end filibuster and cloture if he ever becomes the majority leader, then I've got something I'd really like to sell you.
Yeah, exactly.
That he is going to do that, just like Harry Reid was the first one to do the nuclear option on confirmations for judges. So it is going to happen, and it frustrates me that some of our good conservative friends, even in the Senate, still want to hold on to this, because we might be back in the minority someday, and we'll need that. Well, I've said to them, then you're thinking like a minority already.
Yep.
If you do the right thing, the American people will send you back. And so this is it's interesting to see New York Times this morning on the front page headlines, Senate Democrats shut down the government.
Yeah, and absolutely. It's all on
That's
that.
the New York Times.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Tim, how about national reciprocity? Is that going anywhere, or is that going to fall dead in the Senate like everything else?
That's in the Senate.
Okay.
And again, that will probably fall dead in the Senate. They don't have the number of Second Amendment Democrat supporters that we have in the House. We at least have a good complement of Senate Second Amendment or Democrat Second Amendment supporters in the House.
Once again, 60 vote.
Yeah. So, and then remind me, Tim, how many bills have you passed in the House that are now sitting waiting for the Senate to do something, and they can't do it because they're not getting 60 votes?
It's the last I looked at it. There are 378 votes or bills that we passed that still sit in the House or in the Senate waiting for some type of action. And I have probably right now 4 or 5 bills that were mine that passed the House and sit in the Senate with no action. I've had 1 bill signed by the President thus far this term. And it's frustrating. You do good work in the House, you do regular order, goes through committee. I get bipartisan support. I've always had bipartisan sponsorship on my bills as well, including some of my good friends in Michigan. But the Senate becomes a blockage for us, and that is not the way it should be.
Tim, I have a very important question for you. Have you read the memo?
I have.
Okay, now I want you to blink once.
The limitations of radio. Doggone it. So Tim, you've read the memo, and we had a track, but I'm going to let you give your side of the story because you've seen it. What's going on with the FISA memo?
And I will be very probably halting as I speak because I do not want to violate the law.
Yes, and we can appreciate that.
I'm surprised there's no leaks. Where are the leaks? What's wrong with you guys? Come on.
Well, yeah, and Tim, therein lies the rub, right? Everything else gets leaked. If there's any like fake collusion stuff with Russia, it's leaking like a sieve. And yet here we've got something that is supposedly very damning to the Obama DOJ and the Obama FBI, and yet not a word.
Well, guys like me believe that we need a dedicated clandestine force out there for the good of the country and doing the good of the country. And we need to always check out and make sure that clandestine force who are doing intelligence gatherings and actually putting their lives potentially on the line. I mean, we're talking of really putting their lives on the line. We do not want to do anything that would put them in more danger by releasing information that would give the bad guys an ability to dig down and ultimately find out who these people are. So we've got to be careful on how we do it. But I can tell you this, as recently as this morning, in talking with the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Devin Nunes, that he has heard from me and a large number of my Republican colleagues calling for that memo to be released to the public. I can tell you this, that they are scrubbing that document as carefully as they can to make sure there's nothing that our Democrat colleagues could point to and saying that we walked across the line of what the law says about top secret information, that we gave away any information that could hamper our intelligence gathering capabilities, or that it could be perceived in any direct way as being partisan. There is a process that I believe will be forthcoming and used in the very not-too-distant future that will start the process to give the opportunity for the general public, even the New York Times, to put this document on the front page of the paper.
Oh, that sounds like July. Come on.
As closer to the election as possible.
It also must include the president. Now, I don't think the president would tell us no on it, but we have to make sure that if he did say no for whatever reason, that if we start this, we have the number of votes to do it. It's not a veto override, it would be an override of his no. So all of that has to be scrubbed, but it is moving, and it has the mere fact that it was moved to the point that every member of Congress can read it is very significant.
Okay,
and let me tell you this. It is scary. And when you talk about a deep state, what I read yesterday on the first page scared me